Miami mercenaries, really, that's a double M. Born baller, baby boy, I be above the rim.
What's good, family? It's your boy Just Blaze, host of the best NBA pod in the game, Above the Rim. Keep it locked each week and join myself and a special guest as we tackle the latest rumblings in the league. If it's happening in the NBA, you know I got you covered. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms and leave that 5-star review. Let's get it.
Oh, he's not going to be in awe. How you going to be awe of another man and your daddy is LeVar Ball? Are you serious?
The one and only LeVar Ball is with us. Okay, LeVar.
So wait a minute, LeVar. You think I was soft because when I was a rookie, I got to go against Kareem, and I was honored to be on the court with him. You think that was soft on my part?
Between me and you,
yeah.
You softer than a wet Q-tip.
Yeah. Come on, LeVar. It's Kareem.
Oh, my God.
Talk about it.
You are now tuned in to Above the Rim.
Family, welcome back to another edition of Above the Rim. Brought to you, as always, it's your host, Justin, a.k.a. Just Blaze. Family, you know the drill. To get in contact with me, you can always hit me up. Follow me on Twitter, @JustBlaze_513. On IG, it's @JustBlaze513. On Facebook, search Above the Rim Podcast. Email the show as well. Above the Rim NBA Podcast @gmail.com. Tap in and leave the family a voicemail. The line is always open, 908-718-1592. Show some love. Subscribe on all platforms. Stock up on your merch. Joining me this week, family, another one of my guys that I've connected with in this basketball podcast universe. I lost count of how many versatile pods he's been on and hosting, but he's got the I Love Baseball pod. Any Given Sunday pod he does with my guy Josh, who was on there last episode. One of the most vocal brothers on Twitter. Follow him @Emmanuel Brown to talk your shit. My boy Manny B. What's good, my brother? How you living?
Justin, what's good, man? I appreciate you. It's an honor as always.
Of course. I said one of the most vocal brothers on Twitter with the most positivity. I'm sending it to you, brother, because I know you say some crazy shit on Twitter, but we love to see it, man. It's always wild.
Hey, man. You know, I gotta keep on brand. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, man. So we know, obviously, the NBA is approaching now, probably like the last month or so of the season. Set our sights on the playoffs coming up soon. Still plenty of storylines left to keep an eye on as the stretch run of the season approaches. But before we get into some NBA on the court talk, I want to say quick shout out to A-Rod, D-Wade for joining the ownership club. A-Rod with the T-Wolves, him and I think the guy's name was Mark Lore or something like that. I know they signed a letter of intent this week to buy the T-Wolves. Majority ownership, I believe, full ownership. Why I think this is probably a slightly maybe big deal is maybe because of the possible relocation to another city. I've been seeing Seattle, we all know, is often rumored to be one of the cities to receive a new NBA team. A new NBA team, and Las Vegas as well is another city in the possible running. So what were your thoughts when you thought of when you heard A-Rod getting into ownership with the T-Wolves? It caught me by surprise, low key.
It didn't catch me by surprise. I mean, if you've been following on the baseball side of things, A-Rod's been trying to buy a professional sports team for a while now. I mean, he came within a couple billions of buying the Mets. He fell short on that. Yeah. Him and J-Lo, thank God, by the way, my personal opinion. But as a Met fan, I say that.
I know.
No, man, but it was right. No, but it's cool, man. I mean, it's good to see some new blood in the ownership ranks, some people of color, some black and brown faces. So that's a good thing. Obviously, I don't know how well A-Rod's going to be as an owner. That's still to be decided. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a good thing, man. I mean, I haven't heard about the relocation. That's actually news to me.
Yeah.
Which is actually interesting. Because you would think Minneapolis is a pretty big city. It's one of those big markets or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the Timberwolves have been, well supported over time. It's just been they just have a trash organization as far as how it's ran. But the city as a whole has supported that team. So That's kind of interesting, but yeah, no, it's good to see. It's good to see some black and brown faces in ownership ranks in any sport.
Yeah,
I know, and I was actually more impressed with. I know you didn't touch on this one yet, but the D Wade one, in Utah, I think that's major. I think that's major. And from what I read, he looks to have an active role in the franchise. So we'll see, man. We'll see definitely. But it's good. But it's a good start. Black and brown faces in ownership. That's the goal.
Yeah, definitely. And to that relocation thing, it's not like set in the works or anything like that. There's been just some rumors swirling around. I believe,
just rumors,
yeah. What's their owner? Glenn Taylor, I believe their owner is.
Yeah.
I think he could do a better job than him. Maybe. I mean, he hasn't really done an impressive job.
I mean, anybody could do a better job. You and I can do a better job than Glenn Taylor.
Exactly. So, and I'm honestly, I'm not mad at that possible relocation, man. I mean, I know they are supported in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but in regards to fan support, I feel like they could get that in any city. But I think more importantly, if they were to look at maybe relocating somewhere else, it can help out also with free agency, with stars playing in different locations. And I think, sometimes when you do have a celebrity, or A-Rod is a sports figure, so he's a little bit different. But I feel like it always helps a little bit. Maybe they can understand the players a lot more. Maybe from an ownership standpoint, and I think it's good. I don't see any real negatives to it. If he's a more active owner, it would be solid. And D Wade on that part, I felt like it was pretty interesting that it was Utah. He's getting involved. Yeah, right? I would think it's the Heat. I mean, they said that he was, talking to them, but they said, I think it was Mickey Arison. He was like, that when they were sitting down and talking to D Wade about ownership, that he wasn't ready for that. I think it was about a year or two ago. And he said that the Utah move took him by surprise. So that'll be interesting. So do you think A-Rod in Minnesota and D Wade in Utah will help out on the free agency side, maybe for these franchises?
Really. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt in a sense. I mean, no. Free agency is weird, man. I have these debates a lot of times with a lot of brothers and sisters that follow the sports world and whatnot. Free agency is wild sometimes, man, because you never understand what each athlete's motivation. Some people are motivated by where you live, where the franchise is at. Some people are motivated by winning. Some people are motivated by money. You know what I mean? It just depends on the person, right? I think Utah is a stable organization. Like, I wouldn't, look, I know Utah's had its issues with its fans and whatnot, but from everything you hear, I've never been to the state, but it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place to live. I've been there
once. It's interesting.
It's an interesting place.
I went there for Sundance, and it was.
Oh, word?
Yeah, I went there for Sundance Film Festival. I was there for a good week, man. Y'all look at me. Utah is a very interesting place. I'll leave it at that. But carry on, Manny. Carry on.
No, man. No, but I mean, for everything that I've heard, I used to date a shorty before I got married. That was from Utah. So she used to tell me all the time about Utah. Utah is dope. It's kind of underrated in a lot of ways. Obviously, it depends on where you at, where every state. You know what I mean? But yeah. So, but I mean, I think D Wade helps. Utah more so than I would say A-Rod helps Minnesota, just because, as you could tell from Anthony Edwards, he had no idea who A-Rod was. And people give him a break. How old is Anthony Edwards? This kid's a kid. He's like 19, 20.
Yeah, 19 or 20. But still, though, he got to know who A-Rod is, though. Come on, Manny.
You would think, but bro, that generation, hey.
More interesting.
This young generation, bro, I don't put nothing past them. But no, I think it helps, man. I mean, I think when you sit down at free agency and you discuss, when you have Dwayne Wade across the table from you, I think that helps. I think even having A-Rod there, a known figure, helps somewhat. I don't think it hurt. I don't think it hurts. I think, who would you rather talk to, Glenn Taylor or Mark Lowry, whatever his name is, and A-Rod? I think I would rather talk to A-Rod and his boy. You know what I mean? So Indeed. I think it doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's about money and it's about team success. If Utah continues their trend of being a West Coast power, a Western Conference power, Donovan takes that next step and he commits there long term. I think that's more of an added ingredient for players to come to Utah than anything Dwayne Wade will say. And the same thing for Minnesota.
Indeed. You have to put a winning product on the floor regardless.
Yeah.
To talk to
I agree. I'm a believer deep down. Of course, not every player falls into this category, but I'm a believer that if you have a strong organization from top to bottom and you have a great team or a potential of a good team, good roster, I feel like free agents will come. At the end of the day, free agents will play anywhere. I don't buy that, free agents will, blah, 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 won't play here. Look, money is green everywhere you go.
Definitely. You can say that again.
Facts.
Let's get into copping and dropping. Two hot topic NBA questions. If you agree, you copping. Disagree, you're dropping. And man, I was having this discussion with a couple of my boys the other day in this group chat I was having, and it was causing some heavy debate, man. I remember doing this on Twitter a while ago. I did a poll on this, and the results were very, very close. It was so close, it was a 52-48 split for this. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay. So I said, you know what? I gotta bring this to one of my copping or droppings, and I feel like you have some heat for one of these brothers on Twitter. If I'm correct or I'm not, I think I am, but if I'm not, let me know. So copping or dropping this take, Manny. Donovan Mitchell is better than Paul George right now. Copping or dropping.
Ooh, man.
If you need some context, PG is averaging 23, 6 and 5. He's 30 years old. Donovan Mitchell, 26, 4 and 5. Copping or dropping. Donovan Mitchell is better than Paul George right now.
I'm copping.
Talk to me.
I'm copping. Listen, Paul George is the ultimate tease in the NBA. You know, Paul George is like that IG model that you see. You're like, damn, she bad. She got too big. She got it, and then it's like you slide in the DM, the conversation's going great. You know what I'm saying? You start a dating relationship or whatever. You take her out, you start hanging out, and then you start seeing the warts. Oh, word? She can't cook. She don't got a personality. You know what I mean? She bad as a motherfucker, right? But all these things that are important.
It look good on the outside.
You know? Yeah, exactly. And that's what I feel like Paul George is, right? You see Paul George out there, man, you look at Paul George's talent and you say, why is this guy not one of the top 5 players in the sport? And the thing for me is Paul George has come up so small in the postseason recently that I think that takes away from his greatness. I really do, man. I think at the end of the day, you judge players not just about championships, but what you do in the big moments. I don't care what you do in Sacramento on a back-to-back in February. You know what I'm saying? Like, I care about what you do from April to June. That's where you make your money. That's where icons become legends. You know what I'm saying? Where good players become great players is in the postseason. And he's come up small, man. He's really come up small in some big spots, man. You know, talking about Utah, talking about Donovan, you know, I saw this man get outplayed by a Joe Ingles. Like, Paul George should never. That series will live in infamy. Yes, facts. And I understand that he may have had an injury, whatever the case may be. I understand that, and I'm sensitive to that. But at the end of the day, if you're Paul George, you cannot be outplayed by Joe Ingles. I love my man Joe Ingles, one of my favorite players in the NBA. But hey, at the end of the day, Joe Ingles should not be outplaying you in a postseason series. Look, and this is, and I sound like I'm knocking Paul George. Look, I love Paul George's game. I love his talent. He's a two-way player. He's a great player. But I feel like Paul George teases people into thinking that he's a great player when he's a very good player. He teases people into thinking that he's a number one option when Paul George is really somebody's Scottie Pippen.
I hear you.
And I take Donovan right now. I think Donovan right now, at his age, what he's done in the postseason, I mean,
he's 24. Let's not forget, he's on fire.
He's on fire. He's had 50-point games in the postseason. I've never seen Paul George do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Donovan is that dude, man. He's literally putting Utah from a very good Western Conference team to a team that's in a top seeded team. I know that this season's kind of iffy as far as schedule and all that. We can get to that, but at the end of the day, Utah's playing at a high level, and in part it's because of Donovan Mitchell. So I would take Donovan Mitchell. Plus the age. I mean, 30 to 24. I mean, if you're starting a team right now, you would take Donovan Mitchell.
So I hear you loud and clear, dog.
Okay.
Loud. Okay. Very loud and very clear. Okay. I hear you. I'm going to have to drop this one, man. You know what? Yeah, but very close. Like, I really had to sit down and think about it. So I agree with you literally on every point that you make. Mentality, I think, goes to Donovan Mitchell. Athletic ability, I think, goes to Donovan Mitchell. Age, I think, goes to Donovan Mitchell. Talent, I think, is on par, right? On par.
I think Paul George is probably more talented than Donovan Mitchell. Like, just raw talent, I think Paul George is a little bit more talented.
Yes, I agree. I would say that I was going more so in the potential route, meaning that if sometimes, sometimes the heart and the determination can overcome that talent that someone else has. So Paul George, I've always been a fan of Paul George. So I argue a lot for Paul George to people, but sometimes I just can't argue. I argue him, especially with his playoff failures. So I know you're holding his last playoff failures into high regard right now when it comes to the evaluation of Paul George, and rightfully so, because it's been terrible the last few. Well, I mean, was he terrible the entire playoffs in the bubble? I mean, he was actually.
No, I mean, see, that's the thing. It's deceiving, right? Because if you look at the numbers, it's like, it looks okay. But you watch it. That's why I'm saying you got to watch the game. Because if you just look at the numbers.
Impact buckets, he was not there. When when the Clippers needed him most, when they were down 3-1, he was not there. But also Kawhi neither in one of those games, and especially in the last game. But still, that's why you pay Paul George the big bucks. He's supposed to be there when you need him most, and I agree with that. I think he lets a lot of the outside world get into his head, which is why we went into mentality with Donovan Mitchell. But on both sides of the ball, on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, pure talent-wise, I'm still going with Paul George right now, man. I understand his playoff woes, but I'm still going to give him one more shot, Manny. I'm going to give him one more shot this year to really go back into normal. I don't know if he could go back into Indiana Pacers playoff Paul George.
Right.
But he can be a better version than he has been in the past 2 years, Oklahoma City Paul George, and last year's debacle, I would say. I think he's just putting that one aside.
Again, and I'm with you. I think you're spot on, man. Like, honestly, this is one of those where you could go either way. Ask me any day of the week, and I might have a different answer. Paul George is supremely talented. It's never been an issue about his talent. It's his mentality. It's his makeup. You know what I mean? That's why I get so upset with NBA Twitter, right? Because we fall in love with highlights and numbers, right? And we don't look at the intangibles. We don't look at the things that help a play. You know, that you have to evaluate a player.
Agree.
Winning, crunch time, the little things to win. Comments that you make in the media. Paul George after losing a 3-1 series to Denver.
That's
comments that he made.
That's what
it's just exactly. It's just like those things. And some people may think, oh, that's just a small thing. Who cares? No, it's a big thing.
It is.
You're paying this man $30 million.
That goes into that mentality.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
I don't like the lack of accountability from Paul George. That is one problem that I have from him. His lack of accountability, blaming Doc Rivers last year like it was just Doc Rivers. He wasn't using me correctly. I don't want to hear any of that. But that's why. Well, maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. Just keep giving them chances. Maybe I like the heartache. It must be. But
you fall in love with his talent. You fall in love with his talent. That's what it is, man. You're not the only one, bro.
He got some skill, man. He's silky smooth, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He sure is, and it's definitely gonna be interesting going into this postseason, man. We'll see. Copping or dropping the next one. I want to get into a little bit of Steph Curry MVP talk. So we know he's taking this game to another level, especially in April. Averaging 39.9, damn near 40 points per game for the month of April. Ridiculous. He's been scorching hot. Threes everywhere. Typical Steph Curry. Off the dribble, off a screen, doesn't matter. Hand in his face, doesn't matter. He scored 30 or more points in 10 straight games.
Talking.
Copping or dropping? I know you're a big Steph guy. Steph should still be in the MVP conversation while currently not in the playoffs. Not in the top 1 through 8 seed. Copping or dropping? Steph MVP votes, should he still be in the MVP conversation right now? Copping or dropping?
Copping. I mean, what this man is doing is not only phenomenal, but it's historic. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a big man doing this. This is not Kobe at 6'6" doing this. This is what, a 6'2", 6'3" you know what I'm saying? Point guard that's not athletic or not super or overly athletic, that is just dominating, man. And I love that he is doing this and he's putting up these numbers, because I go back to NBA Twitter, right? NBA Twitter can be a rabbit hole sometimes. You know this.
Oh, yes. Are you telling me?
Right. But all I heard going into this season is, Steph Curry's got a lot of pressure on him. You know what I'm saying? He's got to prove it. You know, all I heard is that Steph Curry's got pressure on him.
But wait, really quick.
Just a shooter.
Let me stop you there. You don't think those were valid?
No, I don't think those are valid. I think, to me, Steph Curry's credentials have already been validated before this season.
Okay.
Right? Like, to me, the man has won 2 MVPs. Like, I just never understood, like, what more do you want from this man? This man literally has won 2 MVPs,
Fair.
Won a championship before KD, and arguably was a suspension and LeBron and Kyrie going absolutely berserk away from winning a championship, back-to-back championships, and 73 wins in a regular season. So, like, I don't understand this hate and this idea that Steph Curry is just like a player that's just lucky, that he's just lucky to be there. Like, he's just along for the ride. Like,
I think lucky is definitely a stretch.
Right, like, but I used to hear everything, right? Like, oh, he's just a shooter. He's just a shooter.
Yeah.
Like cats would act like this man is just Jason Capono or somebody. Like, yo, this is like, yo, put some respect in
Jason Capono. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, shout out to Jason Capono, man, wherever he may be on earth.
Good one there, Manny.
You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, but people were really disrespecting this man. Like, yo, this man changed the way basketball is played. Legitimately. Like, one of the 5 or 6 players that you could arguably say changed the way basketball is played conceptually, practically, on the court, mentally, just everything, right? Mm-hmm. And people are just disrespecting him. And Steph had to remind him this year, like, yo, I'm that dude. And you could arguably say he's better than he's ever been. He's better this year than his MVP seasons.
So bring this back to the MVP conversation right now. Should he be in the MVP conversation, even though he's not in the top 1 through 8?
Even though he's not in the 1 through 8.
Even though?
You could say, I don't think he will win it. Let me be clear. I don't think he will win it. And if his team finishes 10th, I don't think he should win it. But I think if they make the 8th seed...
You can't win MVP as a 10th seed, Manny.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if he's the 10th seed, he's not going to... But the question is, should he be considered for the MVP? I said, absolutely, he should be considered. Now, whether he's going to win it depends on if he makes the playoffs, right? If he makes the playoffs, I think Steph Curry is your MVP right now. Because I think it's one of those years. Because I think it's one of those years that, it's a weird year. There's no obvious pick. Like in years past, there was a KD.
Indeed.
There was a LeBron.
True.
There's no obvious pick. You could go in a myriad of directions. Right? You can go Embiid. You can go Jokic. You can go Dame. I think you absolutely should consider Steph Curry. Like, look at what he's doing with the team around him. Like, you have to understand, like, this man doesn't have his wingman in Clay. You know, Draymond's been in and out, via injuries, suspensions, whatever.
But he has been playing.
Mm-hmm. But it's a young roster. He's transitioning a young roster in there. Number 2 pick in the draft, or number 3 pick in the draft in Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 pick. I'm sorry. Like a young big man that's still trying to find his footing. Like a team that's in transition. And the fact that team is still within an eyelash of making the playoffs, that's a credit to Steph Curry, man. That's a credit to that man, bro. Like, honestly.
So Manny. So let me push back on you a little bit on this.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Let's go.
I'm sorry. The scoring is cute. The threes are
cute.
The threes are The threes are sexy. The dribbling looks great. But the Warriors are losing right now, my brother. They're losing. They're currently not in. They are in the playoff race because there is a playing game. They're currently I think they're 9th or 10th, but they can easily get into 9th. They're at 9th.
Yeah, I think so.
I think 2 games back behind the Grizzlies right now, but they're still playing the 76ers right now, so that could be flip-flopped in any way. They could easily make up ground. Mm-hmm. He's been phenomenal scoring the rock, no doubt about it. But to me, when we talking MVP, top, when I say MVP consideration, I'm talking top 3. After 3, to me, it doesn't really matter too much about the MVP conversation.
But the mold has been broken because Russell Westbrook won an MVP and he was a 6th.
But they were still a 6th seed. They were still in playoff contention throughout the year. They were fluctuating throughout the West, but they were still in at least a playoff race. We knew that OKC Thunder team was not winning a championship, but we knew they would at least give somebody a scare in the first round. But I'm not saying that this team is not, because I do think if they get into the AC, which I believe they should, I do believe they can actually give the Jazz a scare in the first round. But when we're talking MVP consideration, I feel like it has to come from a team that is at least top 3 or better in your conference. Now, I know Russ got that one-off year, but that was because that was more of a narrative award, I feel like, that year.
I agree.
The narrative around it was that he had no help. But to me, I feel like that was just a one-off year. And because of that, I don't think you can just keep, not you per se, but I don't think the media can just keep changing the goalposts because of his exceptional scoring right now. You know how you said you don't feel like he's playing with a lot of talent. Me personally, I'm on the other end of that. I don't feel like he's playing with crumbs. Now, I know he's playing with a championship caliber team, but a lot of people do give Draymond a lot of credit for being a Hall of Fame player. Andrew Wiggins was the top 3. Was he the number 1 pick or 2? Number 1 or 2?
He was the number 1 pick.
Number 1, yeah. He was the number 1 pick. So it's not like excuse me, Andrew Wiggins doesn't have any talent. Kelly Oubre does have some talent. He's been underachieving this year, hasn't played the greatest, but
I agree.
He is a better player than what he has shown, I believe, this season in Golden State, because he was a lot better last year. So I think he can be better. And I see a lot of Steph scoring, but I don't know if I see a lot of Steph making his teammates better right now. I mean, winning a scoring title doesn't bump you into MVP talks, in my opinion.
You're right. Look, nothing that you said is I totally disagree with, and I agree with you. I think the media does sometimes change the goalpost to fit a certain narrative, i.e. the Russell Westbrook here. Mm-hmm. But my thing is, at the end of the day, that the trend has already been set. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether we like it or not, whether it was narrative or not,
what kind of trend is that to set? A 10th place to get an MVP?
But again, we're talking about should Steph be in consideration? Yes. Okay. Now, whether he should win it, I think it depends on. Like I've said it, I'll be clear. If he does not get to the playoffs, I don't think Steph Curry should win the MVP. I think he should get MVP votes. I think he should be considered, but I don't think he should win it. Right. Now, if they get into the 8th seed, I think absolutely, because I think this is one of those weird years.
Too?
Like I think that is, because I think this is one of those years where you don't have a clear cut. Like, yo, give it to this person, right? Yeah. Like most people would say Embiid, but Embiid has missed some time. Mm-hmm. So I think,
Jokic,
are you going to hold that, right? Jokic too. Are you going to hold that against them? I think you probably should. Or I don't know how much of that will you hold against them, but I think you should. But I think Steph, and to his credit, Steph has also missed some time this year too. I think every great player at one point or another has missed some time this year, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So it's a valid argument. My thing is, to me, is you've already set the precedent with Russell Westbrook, right? Whether we like it or not, whether it was narrative or not, 6th seed, 8th seed, whatever. The precedent has been set. Plus, I also think we have to establish, like, what exactly is the MVP? Is the MVP the most valuable player on the best team? Is it the best player on the best team? Or is it a most outstanding player? Basically, the best player
the best player for the season.
For that season, right? And I think we have to establish that. And I think every sport kind of has this debate, right? You have this in baseball, you have this in basketball, you have this in football, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think, to me, Steph Curry has been the best basketball player this season. To me, in my personal opinion.
Okay, to you, I disagree, but right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But hey, this is not, it's not an exact science.
Yeah. No, that's fair. He's been playing exceptional. The best offensive player, I would say yes. Maybe.
I think he's been the best overall player this year. His performances have been incredible. He's been the best player this year. Now, of course, some people will say Harden, some people will say this guy, that guy, whatever. At the end of the day, it's an MVP discussion. You can't go wrong with anybody unless it's like Steph. Like, I would agree that him winning the MVP as a 10th seed would be a little bit of a joke. Like that does kind of rub me the wrong way as well.
I think that would be the biggest narrative award era. That would be a little bit crazy.
But if they somehow get into the 8th seed and get into the playoffs, I think you can absolutely make an argument that Steph Curry.
I think that's crazy as well, bro. I think winning an 8th seed, yes. I just told you not that I just told you. I think he's not playing with crumbs. To me, he's not playing with crumbs. If you were playing with absolute garbage, then the 8th seed
he's not playing with Smush Parker. I agree.
Okay, but hold on, man. Let me stop you real quick. So a guy like Chris Paul, who took his team from out of the bubble, joined a team that didn't make the playoffs this year, is now the 2nd seed in the West. Second best record in the entire league right now. A game back from the number 1 seed. Why isn't he getting more MVP consideration? Maybe Jokic, I believe, is probably number 1 right now. Embiid, I believe, is up there too. Harden is to me, he's not. I think he deserves consideration, but to me, he's not. He doesn't top my list. Definitely agree. Because how he started the year, I believe does play a role.
Absolutely.
And Dame, elite scorer to me, but hasn't really made his teammates better this season, even though he's been carrying a load himself. I think Dame and Steph are pretty much neck and neck in MVP voting, in my opinion. I think they both have done pretty much the same amount. I mean, give or take scoring numbers a little bit different, but to me, they carried the same amount of load, in my opinion, this season. Yeah. So I think if Dame isn't getting MVP consideration and he's in a higher seed, then how can Steph get that same consideration or more for
I agree with you.
having a lower seeded team? That's all I'm really saying.
No, you absolutely spot on. I do think Dame is getting consideration. I think he should absolutely get consideration. Again, I think this is the wildest MVP year I've seen in a long time.
It is.
Right? Because again, you don't have that clear-cut person. Like if someone told me today, I think Embiid should win the MVP, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can't disagree with you. Mm-hmm. Like if someone came to me today and told me Jokic should win the MVP, yeah, okay, yeah, or Steph, yeah, okay. I would say, he has to make the playoffs, but I'm with you on that.
Yeah, this one is definitely
wide open. The MVP, it's wide open. It's wide open, bro. Like Chris Paul should be getting some MVP loves. I have my issues with Chris Paul, but at the end of the day, what he's doing, you start laughing because you know.
Because I know you a hater, but carry on.
I ain't no damn hater,
You're
man.
a damn hater.
But at the end of the day, man, what he's doing with Phoenix, I cannot argue against that, man. What he's done with that organization, he's completely changed the narrative around that team. He's the adult in the room. He's completely changed everything. I agree with that. So I think he absolutely should get some MVP love as well.
I hear that. But like we said, it's going to be wide open. It's going to be really interesting who wins MVP this year, man. I don't think anyone is going to be happy if we're honest, because I think there's too many different candidates to choose from. But that actually adds to the beauty of it and the suspense, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's wide open.
Yeah, it's wide open. We'll see. Let's talk about your Lakers now, brother. Okay. It's about that time because this has been I would say upcoming is going to be a very sneakily, very, very important end of the season stretch coming up for the Lakers. Trying to stay afloat in the West. Their 2 franchise stars out, missing significant time. AD missed about 28 games or so, 28 or 30 games. LeBron about 15 or so. The Lakers have been pretty up and down, but middle of the pack in the West, if that makes sense. Number 1 ranked defense, 21 in offense. AD's return is looming this week. Definitely get into that. LeBron in the middle of a MVP season until he got hurt. Picked up big boy Drummond. Supporting cast looking slightly sus, but very respectable with no stars around them. Sitting in fifth place in the West right now. Manny, talk to me, brother. Let's evaluate your Lakers thus far. What are your thoughts on how the season has gone? And what do you see moving forward? Quick recap of your season thus far. How you feeling?
Well, the season's interesting, man, because it's kind of been a tale of 2 seasons, right? Yeah. It was the season when LeBron and AD were playing, and it was the season when LeBron and AD were not playing. So I think you have to evaluate what you saw on both halves, right? First half, they looked like the best team in basketball, like without a doubt, right? AD and LeBron. LeBron was receiving early MVP hype. Remember that? Like LeBron, everybody was saying LeBron is looking the best.
He was definitely up at the top 2, top 3.
Right. If the season had ended, January 10th, LeBron probably wins the MVP.
I would have given it to him early on, for sure.
Right. The Lakers had the best record in basketball. They were flying. They were rolling, right? And the new additions were fitting in pretty well, if not, surprisingly well. Yeah. Then, of course, the injury started. Other than Marc Gasol, but his is more age than anything else. Marc Gasol's he's just old, right? Mm-hmm. And then of course you start getting the injuries. AD gets hurt. You know what I'm saying? Then you have, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks later, LeBron gets hurt. So I think you have this new season now with the Lakers now, where you're basically relying on Dennis Schroeder and Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell and KCP and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So look, man, I think at the end of the day, man, it's a crazy season. It's been a crazy year if you're a Laker fan from the standpoint of, like I said, we've had literally 2 seasons. Yeah. I think it's hard for me to evaluate this season right now because again, we don't have our 2 horses, right? Once our 2 horses get back, then I think we're playing with a full deck, and then we can see what this team is at 100% or at the very least 90%. You know what I mean? So. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out from the finish line. We can talk about the playoffs when we get there, right? But at the end of the day, the fact that this team has been able to tread water, I said it because I was on a couple shows and, of course, the Lakers being the Lakers, being the greatest franchise in sport, I had to throw that in there, 17 championships and all.
A lot of gold.
17 championships. A lot of gold. Not just in the uniform, baby. Not just in the uniform. But, a lot of people were throwing salt in the wound and, burying us. I had somebody tell me the Lakers were going to play in the play-in game. I ain't going to mention that person's name. Hopefully he's listening. But, a lot of people telling me, the Lakers might miss the playoffs and all this other stuff. I'm like, yo, all the Lakers got to do is play 500 ball for the next 6 to 8 weeks. Just play 500. Just tread water.
That's what they need to do.
Don't collapse. Yeah. Don't collapse. Don't go from being a 2 or 3 seed to like the 8 seed. Just stay afloat, tread water.
Yeah,
and I think the Lakers have done that. Like, I think if you look at the record, I think they've pretty much done that. They've played semi 500 basketball, right?
Mm-hmm. They have.
I think that's a good thing, bro. I think that's a scary thing if you're a fan of an opposing team to the Lakers, right? Because the Lakers have managed to stay afloat with all of these injuries, and now you're talking about getting AD back, LeBron back.
Yeah, so let's talk about AD being back since you brought him up. So this is a perfect time because he's back this week. Most likely, they said, I think he's coming back Thursday or something like that for, against Dallas, which is great news for Laker Nation. They said he should probably be on a minutes restriction initially.
Smart.
He played only 23 games this fall, 22-8 this season. Not typical AD numbers, but still all-star level numbers, but not the AD, I guess, that we normally have come to expect. He's been battling with some injury concerns. And in regards to that play-in tournament that you talked about, the Lakers, I feel like some of their most important games are coming up in the next two when they play. I think they're playing Dallas back-to-back, I believe, in the next two couple of games. So that's going to be very important if they do run into a little bit of trouble until LeBron comes back, at least having that tiebreaker over Dallas or at least keeping them at bay, because you definitely don't want to be in a play-in game. That would be ridiculous if the Lakers are in a playoff game. A play-in game. But we obviously know you guys need AD to win a title. It's coming back now. Last year in the bubble, he was dominant. What if when he comes back now, is it enough? What about if he comes back and it's not the same AD, or if he's maybe 75% AD? Is that enough to still make a run? What do you expect from AD on his way back and going forward now during the final stretch of the season?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I won't sit here and try to play one. I think if AD is completely is a strong word. If AD is 85, 90% healthy, I think AD is still one of the top 5 or 6, 7 players in the world. I think he's proven that, right? 85% AD is better than a lot of guys in this league. I think the Lakers have been smart with AD because I think, again, his injury history is something that I think you always should take into consideration when you're talking about him and his injuries. Yeah. His injury history. I think they've been smart. I think they have not rushed it. I think they haven't pushed him at all. I think they've taken the overly conservative approach, which is, I think, the right thing to do. And I think he will be an impact player, man. I think he will. I think this last 2 or 3 months that he's been off, I think it's helped him, because I think the other thing that people are not talking about, out of all of our players, I think AD was the one that was the slowest to bounce back from the quick turnaround. Remember, the Lakers only had, I think, 70 days to get ready from playing in the finals in October to starting the season on Christmas Day or whatever, so around Christmas. So I think definitely wasn't conditioned the same. He looked a little bit bigger when we came back into the season, if I'm not mistaken. His conditioning was off. His conditioning was off. He looks a little heavier too, though, if I'm not tripping, right? He looks a little heavier. You think not? You don't think so? I'm not really looking at his body like that. I feel like from the bubble, like up top, like he looks a little bit huskier this season. I feel like it contributed a little bit to. I feel like he was just a little bit slower. It wasn't typical normal. Bubble AD. I think he was dealing with some injuries beforehand. Like I think he wasn't. I just saw him all year, and I was like, AD just don't look right. Yeah. I think he was kind of playing himself into shape as the season went on, and then of course his injury happened. So I actually think the time off will help AD. I think he'll be fresher by the time the playoffs get, as opposed to playing all year. And as far as his impact, I think it depends on LeBron, right? Like, I think if LeBron is healthy, or again, 85, 90% healthy, it's LeBron, right? Say what you want to say about the man. 85% LeBron is still better than like half of the players in NBA history, right? Or he's that guy, right? Yeah. And then of course you throw AD in. I still think, listen, to not sound cocky or arrogant, when we are at our best, I still think we're the best team in basketball, bro. I think we've proven that. I think we are the defending champions until somebody beats us. And I think if LeBron is healthy, again, 85, 90%, AD, 75, 80, 85%, if those guys are healthy, I don't see anybody in the Western Conference beating us, man. I really don't. I hear that. And especially coming off of last year's run in the bubble, a lot of people, some people, I wouldn't say a lot of people, some people made the mental shift to start saying that Anthony Davis is now considered the most important player on the Lakers roster, or the most important player in hopes of their championship success. To that you say, what? Do you feel like
he still has to be your most important player in order to get through the West, because the West is going to be a bloodbath all playoffs. So you're going to need a very, very productive Anthony Davis. How productive? We'll see. But you do need a productive Anthony Davis. So a lot of people said that for the reason for that Lakers title run last year was because AD stepped up and was the most important player in the playoffs. Do you feel like he needs to be the same this postseason?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know where this narrative came from. Like, AD was a scrub in the playoffs. Like, I don't understand where that.
That's true. I don't know where that came from. Yeah,
I don't know where that came from. Like, AD
he was always putting in work.
Right. Like, this man dominated the Trailblazers in a postseason series a couple years ago when he was a 6 seed. Like, AD consistently had 2 or 3 playoff trips with the Pelicans, which a bunch of nobodies, Solomon Hills of the world.
Yeah, that team it was Rondo, Drew Holiday, AD, and a bunch of...
Yeah, a bunch of guys, a bunch of others, right?
Yeah.
So I don't understand where this narrative came from. Like, AD was basically James Harden 2.0 in the postseason. I don't understand that. Somebody please help me. When this show comes out, please, like, tweet us, message us, whatever. Like, please help me out with that narrative. As far as AD, man, look, he was the best player in the bubble. I thought he was the best Laker last year.
Sure was.
All the way up until about game 3 of the finals. I think the last few games of the finals, I think he kind of tapered off a little bit. But pretty much the whole entire playoff run, all the way up until to the finals, he was the best player on the team, man. I think he is still the most important player on our team. LeBron still may be the best player. He might be the most important in some aspects, but I think AD is the X factor, man. I think if AD is playing again, even at a 90%, even if you told me AD is going to be 85%, 85% AD is still better than, a majority of the players in this league, man. So I think that AD still needs to be the same AD, the AD that was put on this earth to play basketball. If he does that, if he plays up to the level that he's supposed to play, the Lakers are going to be fine, man. Yeah. And you already know what you're going to get out of LeBron. So it's just a matter of, can AD keep up? Can AD stay healthy and put up the performance that he had last year? And I have no doubt that he can.
Yeah, I agree with you there, man. We're gonna see, definitely. Let's talk about
you move on real quick. Yeah. And I think the other X factor is I think we're a deeper team this year than we were last year.
Oh yes, 100%.
I think going through the stretch without LeBron and AD, I think has allowed guys like Schroeder, like Kuzma, like Montrezl Harrell to establish their roles on this team and get a little shine and get their games up to a different level, right? Because I think if you would have told me last year that AD was only 80%, I would have said, no way we win a championship. But I think this year, with the depth that we have, where I think AD, I don't think you need AD necessarily to score 35 points a game in the postseason.
That's really the question, though. Yeah, that's really my question. Do you need him to be that AD?
I don't think we need him. I don't think he needed to be. I don't think we need AD to be 35 and 12 this postseason.
Do you need him 28 and 12?
Yeah. If we can get 25 and 12, 25 and 11.
What about the 22 and 8 that he's giving right now? He's been given this season. Is that enough?
I think as a great player, those numbers, if you're a great player and you carry that into the postseason, like I think Shaq says the same thing. Those numbers, you should get 10 points more a game. You should get, 10 or, 8 or more rebounds a game.
Yep.
I think honestly, bro, I'm not worried, bro. If he's scoring 22 and 8 right now, I think I would not be surprised if we're seeing 32 and 32 and 15 in the postseason.
High optimism.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. I don't think we need that necessarily this year. I think we have Montrezl Harrell. I think we have Kuzma. Kuzma's settled into a role now. Remember last year, Kuzma was a rudderless shit last year. He didn't know what he was doing on his team last year.
Yeah.
And I think this year he understands his role better. He's like, I'm one of the glue guys. I'm one of the guys that do a little bit of everything. If you need me to rebound, I'll rebound. If you need me to play a little bit of defense, I'll play a little bit of defense. If you need me to go off on a game, I will. I think Kuzma has a much more defined role. I think Schroeder is an X factor on this team too. Another ball handler, another playmaker. He's taken over that Rondo role. He's a younger Rondo. Listen, I'm not worried, man. I'm not worried.
I hear that. So when you brought up the playoff rotation, so when I was thinking about, I was trying to think of a couple of things that the Lakers may need to improve on going into the playoffs. And I was looking up and down this roster, but I wouldn't necessarily say something that they need to improve on per se, but I think something that they need to maybe clean up, if I was Frank Vogel, I think is the playoff rotation. I think the playoff rotation got to be cut a little short. But the question to me is, how are they going to cut that playoff rotation short? There's a lot of guys on this roster, to me, that are ready to play, which ultimately is a great problem to have. I think there's about low-key like 12 dudes that could legit get playoff minutes on this roster. And you spoke about the depth, and that's why I 100% agree. There's literally like 12 dudes on this roster that is, I would say, worthy of meaningful playoff minutes. And I know a lot of people think THT may be too young to contribute to contribute in the playoffs, and I disagree. I think he's ready.
Yeah, I disagree with that too. Yep.
Who else is young on the roster? Caruso, obviously, he played last season, so they can't say that about him. But my point is, somebody is going to have to be out of their rotation throughout the playoffs, because usually when we get to the playoffs, they're only going about 8 or 9 deep. A lot of guys are playing 35 minutes, 35 plus minutes. So if we had to choose 2 or 3 guys that are going to have to miss out on a rotation, who are those 2 or 3 guys going to be? Because somebody has to take a step back. Who would you say 2 or 3 guys, maybe 2 guys throw out, who was going to have to sit out in this playoff rotation?
Good question. Yeah, it's tough. And again, it's a good problem to have, right?
Great.
I'd rather have too many guys to play than too little guys to play. That being said, man, I think you see less and less of Marc Gasol.
I was thinking
going forward, especially when AD gets back.
Which is tough too, man, because he was just in a playoff run, a deep playoff run. That's really crazy.
Marc Gasol solidified, man. His career.
He's been a shell of himself.
Right, and at the end of the day, he's a guy that if I was Vogel, I was like, just stay ready because your number may be called at any time. And he's a veteran. I don't doubt that. Like I don't have a problem with just relying on Marc Gasol for a couple minutes in the playoffs.
You might need him for the Joker though. Maybe.
Right, you might need him for that. So, but I think you'll see less and less of him as the postseason gets going.
Agreed.
You'll see him in a series against Joker. You maybe see if they get to the finals. Against maybe an Embiid, just a body to throw at Embiid. If Philly gets there, but I think Marc Gasol is obviously prime candidate number 1. 2 or 3 guys, I would say maybe a Wes Matthews.
Nah, he's not. You know what's crazy? He's not even in the 12 that I named. He's actually the 13th. I took him off. So without Wes Matthews, he's not even in the 12.
Yeah, but I mean, a Wes Matthews type, a Ben McLemore type.
Ben McLemore, so you got him off the rotation.
I got him off the rotation. I got Wesley Matthews off the rotation.
Caruso got to play.
Caruso got to play.
THT.
To me, THT got to play. I think Kuzma and Markieff, I think those 2 have to play because I think when Kuzma's on, I think he basically subsidizes what Markieff gives you.
That's a lot of guys versa, right there, brother.
Honestly, I don't mind. I think for the Lakers right now, I don't mind having a big roster, especially in the postseason, early on in the postseason.
Yeah, but brothers need their rhythm. They're never going to play more than 9 guys because guys need their rhythm in the playoffs.
True.
So somebody really have to either Markieff. Is it Markieff? Markieff. Either him, I feel like, THT, Ben McLemore.
Gasol.
KCP got to play. Fucking
KCP got to play.
Yeah, so those 3 might have to be it because there's no one I can see benching other than that.
Listen, the rotation, Schroeder, KCP as starters. You got LeBron, obviously. You got AD. You got Drummond.
Yep.
Then I think you got Montrez. You got Trez as your 6th man.
Yep.
You got Kuz. You got Markieff. That's 8.
That's 8. Yep.
And you got Caruso.
It's 9. All right. So THT, Gasol, and McLemore. Wes Matthews.
And honestly, depending on how each of these guys finish, I might swap out THT for Caruso.
Listen, I want THT to get some run, man. I want to see what the young boy can do, man. I
like THT, man.
I do. I think he's fearless, and I think he's aggressive. I like his aggressiveness as a guard, and I think he's an exceptionally young piece moving forward. We'll see if the Lakers hold on to him, but
I'm a Caruso guy, though. Caruso just does the little things to win.
He does.
He's essential. There's just little things. Yeah, he's essential because he does the dirty work. He does the little things. He gets the tip in when you need it. He gets the steal when you need it.
He should be the first guard off the bench, easily, to me. He should be the first guard off the bench, and I think Kuzma or Trez. Frank Vogel's going to have to mix up that rotation a little bit now, man, with everybody back. I don't think about it, man. You have to mix it up.
Hey, but but honestly, it's a good problem to have. And I'm not worried about it because, again, I think that this team knows what the goal is. I think you don't have dissent on this team. It's not a situation where the Clippers were last year where you just could tell that this team wasn't right chemistry-wise. I think chemistry is there. I just think, so that's like, to me, once that chemistry is established, and I think the chemistry has already been established, then I don't worry about the rotations. I don't worry about guys not playing or playing because I think at the end of the day, everybody knows the overall goal is to try to win a championship.
Indeed. Ideal playoff route for you and the Lakers. Best matchups. Okay. Who do you think is the biggest threat to the Lakers in the West? What would you be the ideal play? Right now, they're 5th. They will be playing the Nuggets right now in the first round, which is a tough first round matchup. The Western Conference Final matchup from last year. So what is your ideal route? And what would be the biggest threat to the Lakers in your opinion?
I mean, ideal route would have been getting a top 3 seed, right? But I don't think that's going to be likely. We might be able to get into the 4th seed and have a home field advantage.
4 or 5 is looking like the range.
Right. Honestly, man, I think Denver was the team that scared me the most. Just because they're young, they're hungry. That team is deep. It's growing by the day. I think the Jamal Murray injury, though, I think is going to be big for them.
You think that changes things?
I really do. Yeah, that changes things. I think it changes things for them.
They are a little wounded right now, man.
They're wounded. I think that's a big wound for them. Yeah. I really do. Because they need that closer in big spots. And Jamal Murray has proven that. At least in the bubble last year, he proved that he could do that. And I think that's a missing piece that I don't think they're going to be able to replace, especially against the Lakers. So I think Denver was the biggest fear for me. The Clippers, I'll give them their respect, even though I can't stand them, because at the end of the day, when you can throw on the court, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, you have a chance against anybody. Mm-hmm. That being said, man, I think the Clippers, I just don't see it, man. I really don't. I with all due respect to Kawhi, I just don't see it, man. I don't think they have enough offensively. I really don't. Again, Denver was the team that I was most concerned. Denver was the team. So the road has
gotten clearer, in your opinion.
I think the Jamal Murray injury cleared things up a little bit. Yeah, I think it cleared things up already, because I think when Jamal was healthy and then getting Aaron Gordon, I think I was like, oh shit, like, this was something that I had to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So right now, I mean, Portland doesn't scare me. Mm-hmm. Utah, it doesn't scare me.
That's how I
know your Suns. They don't scare me. I'm sorry. They don't.
That's fair. That's fair.
Dallas, I'm sorry, doesn't scare me.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So you think? So I guess Lakers would be the favorites. The favorites against the Nuggets, in your opinion. And then after that, a meeting against the Jazz. Do you think that series would go 7? Do you think the Jazz got?
I will say this.
Some smoke. I will
say this. And again, I'm not trying to come off as a cocky Laker fan. You know me. I'm a sound.
All y'all Laker fans sound like that. Come on, man. Go. I already know this is happening.
But I'm trying to make logical arguments. You know what I'm saying? Because from a matchup perspective, Denver's the only team that I think can match up with the Lakers and give the Lakers problems, right?
Why? Just because of Joker, or you just felt like they had?
I think because of I think the Joker. I think Aaron Gordon is an athletic body that you could put on LeBron. He won't stop LeBron.
I think the streets are overrated him, man.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I think people made Aaron Gordon out to be the second coming of
Dominique Wilkins or some shit coming over there.
Exactly.
I was like, yo, hold on, this is Aaron Gordon now. 13 points per game, Aaron Gordon. Chill out, but carry on.
Let's chill. But at the end of the day, I think in Denver, I think he does fit a nice role for them. I think he gives them an athletic body. Yeah. He's an upgrade over a Millsap per se than they would have had last year.
Yes.
And even a Mason Plumlee. So that's what I'm saying. From a matchup perspective, I think they are the biggest threat to the Lakers.
I like that first round series, though.
I think that's our West. Honestly, bro, and this is gonna sound arrogant. I think that is our Western Conference Finals, bro. I think if we get by Denver, I think the road is clear, bro. Because against Utah, bro, that's a 5-game series. I'm calling it right now.
I like to hear that spicy talk. Listen, I'm not a big proponent of the Jazz either, so I would not be surprised at all.
As much respect as I got from my guy Quinn Snyder, a fellow Dookie. You know what I'm saying? Donovan is certified. I love Donovan.
Yes.
Joe Ingles, nice glue guy. You know what I'm saying? They have a nice team.
Your boy, Joe.
my boy, Joe Ingles. But at the end of the day, man, they don't have that second guy.
Yeah.
Mike Conley's not that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Jordan Clarkson, what do you feel?
Jordan Clarkson's nice, but again, he's not that guy that... What I mean by that guy is that guy when Donovan's double team, I can give this guy a ride.
Who can you count on?
Exactly. You can't count on none of these dudes. Utah's a nice team, a nice regular season team, man. But I think when they run up against the Lakers and that size and that defense, I think we'll be able to smother Donovan Mitchell. And I think we'll make Donovan Mitchell a guy that has to pass a lot. And I think he's going to have to rely on a lot of guys to make plays and make shots. And that's when they're going to run into trouble. Yeah. And I think at best, out of respect for Donovan, that's a 5-game series. It could be a sweep. But I'll give Donovan that.
I hear that.
And then in the Western Conference Finals, you got the winner of Phoenix versus who? The Clippers or whatever?
Yeah.
If it's the Clippers, 6 games. If it's Phoenix, 5 games. I'm just saying,
disrespectful man here today. We love it, man. I'm gonna make sure. I know this is on wax, so it's lovely. I love to hear.
I love to hear. I know you. I know you love the Suns. Right? I know you love the Suns, and you deserve your shine, bro, because you called the Heat last year before nobody else did.
Sure did.
You called the Suns. You called the Suns this year.
Western Conference Finals gonna be Suns and Lakers. Watch.
So far, it's looking good. So far. Mm-hmm. But again, you got to look at the matchups, man. I mean, who's guarding?
I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared to set the Lakers. I'm not gonna lie. That is not a good matchup for the Suns. To be honest with you, it's a terrible matchup.
And listen, we've talked about the Lakers, and we haven't even mentioned Andre Drummond.
Yes. Oh, right. I'm glad that you brought him up. I like Drummond. I love Drummond. I love the pickup of the big boy Drummond. But I do think, right, because I've been watching these Drummond games, right? Lowest of keys.
Right.
Offensive production through the roof. He's definitely going to get you a double-double easy. But I think defensively, I think he's actually going to have some trouble defensively on the perimeter in the playoffs. I think if you guys play against a guard-heavy team, i.e. maybe the Suns, maybe the Blazers, teams like that, I feel like, or maybe Dallas all I have is Luke off the dribble, and I don't think they're going to let him switch out. But if you play against teams that will force Andre Drummond to switch out, I think the Lakers might run into a little bit of trouble, and they can be beat off the perimeter. If all your shots are going in, if you're shooting a 50, damn near 50% from the floor, if not better. But I think going inside, there is no competition. So I believe it's a bad matchup for everybody because the Lakers are too big. But I do think any team can give you guys a scare if they can get very hot from the perimeter. And I think that would be the way to at least take you guys to 7, because it's going to be tough beating the Lakers. I'm gonna be honest. It's going to be very tough for any team.
Right. No, I agree. You brought up some good points. I do think that Drummond will have some problems, especially against a guard or a perimeter-oriented team. But I think if AD is healthy, and again, biggest if, I keep saying that, if AD is healthy, if AD is relatively healthy, I think he supplements some of that from a Drummond perspective. I think the onus is not going to be on Drummond necessarily to have to switch out as much. If AD is healthy,
if he's not playing, I feel like it's going to be Montrez, and I think guards do that as well. Unless AD is playing a 5, which I think is your best lineup anyway. But carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. In the postseason, I agree. I think that is the best lineup.
Yeah.
But I'm honestly not too worried about that. It's a concern, but I'm not worried about it.
I hear that.
At the end of the day, man, I just think that, and look, the Drummond, I was kind of whatever on the Drummond thing. Mm-hmm. But listen, Drummond's one of those guys, you hate Drummond on a Cavs team where he's the best player. You love Andre Drummond when he's your 5th best player.
True.
Like, deadass.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So, I listen, man, I think, again, I'm not trying to sound like a cocky, arrogant Laker fan. I'm not. I will sit here and I will tell... But no, I'm a realistic and I'm a rational Laker fan. If we have issues, if we have warts, I will sit here and I will tell you that.
Mm-hmm. I think because
I'm not saying we're indestructible. I'm not saying we're unbeatable, but I just think the West, the way the West is played out right now, I just think that if the Lakers are at full strength, I still don't think anybody could beat us, man.
I think because there's no real single dominant team like that. I think that also affects the viewpoint on
There's no Golden State of a couple years ago.
Exactly. There's only teams that a lot of things have to go right in order to beat you guys. So I definitely agree with you that it's going to be the Lakers are still the team to be, even if they're in the 5 seed, in my opinion. So it's going to be interesting. And it's right now, especially, it's the rehabilitation period right now for the Lakers. So there isn't one team on the West that really wants to play the Lakers in the series. Let's be real about it. But we'll see. I don't think you guys are unbeatable, but I do think it's definitely going to be a good series if teams play how they should play, and if they're confident as well. That's also a point to it. So we're gonna. And
again, all this is predicated on health. If LeBron shows up and he's out of shape and he looks like a 36-year-old basketball player instead of the alien that he is, then of course the Lakers are vulnerable. If AD is instead of 85%, he's like 65, 70%. Then we have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, if the others don't show up and don't play it to their potential, then we have a problem. But I'm saying at full strength, everybody locked and loaded, playing at their best, I still think the Lakers are the team to beat, man.
Yeah, my brother. I hear that. Manny, appreciate you joining me, my brother. Appreciate you.
Bro, it's an honor, man.
Coming through for another episode of Talk Your Lakers, man.
I hated that it was just Lakers-centric, bro. I can talk about other teams, my dude. Like,
no, it's so good. I haven't talked about the Lakers in a while. I needed to get some Lakers talk in because going into the stretch run of the season is going to be very important on where you guys land right now. So I think that actually where the Lakers land in the playoff race, I think will shape the rest of the West, and I think will shape how the playoffs actually turn out. So it's very important to see where the Lakers are at right now before y'all get your horses back and we see how it's gonna go. Because
can I give you one more hot take?
Yeah, go ahead.
If the Golden State Warriors are the 8th seed, I think they beat the Jazz in the first round.
Ooh, talk about it. I like that. I do. Especially if Steph can get hot. And not can he get hot. He will get hot in the postseason.
And I will say this. I think they could beat the Suns in the first round series too.
Oh, spicy talk.
No, I mean, listen, it ain't gonna be a sweep. It's not gonna be a 5-game. I think it's a 7-game war. You know what I'm saying? But I just think Steph Curry, Draymond, Steve Kerr, that pedigree. I think that would worry me if I was a Suns fan or a Jazz fan.
I hear that, but that's why they should be in the playoffs, though. That's what I'm saying. If he's gonna get MVP consideration, they need to be in the playoffs, man. They're good enough.
I agree.
They're good enough to make it. The Grizzlies shouldn't beat out the Warriors for a playoff spot. That to me is unacceptable to me. We can't have the Grizzlies in there and the Warriors not making it. They got to get in.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
For sure. So I'm ready for the playoffs, man. We only got, like a month left? A month and some change, I think.
Less than that, man. I think the playoffs start, 15th, the 16th? So, man, we basically got a month. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we got a month.
A little bit less, though. Yeah, because we are just about to hit the 20th.
The 19th? So. Yeah, the 20th? Yeah, so about a month.
Yeah, this is spicy time.
3.5 weeks left? Yeah, we ready, bro.
I definitely got to bring you back for the playoffs, man. It's going to be interesting because I like your Nuggets, Lakers pick and all of that.
Bro, I was disappointed because we didn't get the BK connection like we did last time. Last time I was on the show, our homegirl Erica and I, we cooked up a classic, bro. So I was disappointed we didn't get back on that. So we got to do a BK connection part 2.
Yes, let's do that again. We definitely doing that again for the playoff time. 100%, brother.
Yeah, shout out to Erica. Shout out to Erica too.
Shout out to E-Money right there. Shout out to Girls in Sports.
Yeah.
For sure. So, Manny, my brother, I appreciate you joining me once again, man. It's always a pleasure, man. Of course. Of course. So let's get on up out of here. Episode 149, family. And we out.